Welcome to Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Adam Robinson from Adam Robinson Design. Adam is a landscape designer based in Sydney, and he's also a brand ambassador for the Landscape Design Institute, who he's been a member for 14 years. So we touch on that in this chat. I also spoke to them at the Garden Show about his ambassadorship and also about how they're looking to get more students working with landscape designers. It's like a bit of a work experience type situation. So that was fascinating to hear, to talk to them about that, and also hear Adam touches on something similar in this chat. I did also like how he started out in the industry. So he knew that he wanted to do something in landscaping, so he started out in construction, and then realised that construction wasn't where his actual passion was, but it was more in design. So, and when he started studying design, he realised that he got along better with the students and the teachers and the people who were actually wanting to be there doing design, because that's where their passion was. So it was good to see how he knew he had a bit of an idea where he wanted to go, but he's got his foot in the door and then realised what he loved doing, and then now he built a 9-staff business doing that exact passion. So it's good to see that he's did that. And speaking of the staff numbers, we also spoke about how even he had the anxiety of putting his first staff member on, and now he's got 9 staff members. So it's a pretty common feeling for people to have when they first look to put on their first employee, and it's not uncommon to freak out a little bit. So, but it seems to work out for everyone. So it's just got to take that first leap. And we also talked about the importance of getting your face on camera for your marketing and how that relates to the customers. So Adam does some pretty cool walkthroughs of his projects. So we discussed that, as well as some other great subjects. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Adam Robinson. So Adam, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Thanks, Joel. Pleased to be here. I started in the industry when I had finished school, and the neighbour next door was doing some renovations to his house, and as part of that renovation he was doing some landscaping, and I just popped my head over the fence and I said, hey, I'd love to get into landscaping. And then he hired me, and that was my first job in landscaping.
So was he a landscaper, or was he just someone working for himself?
No, he wasn't a landscaper at all. It was quite funny because he did all the tiling, painting, and lots of other renovations to the house. And there was one area of the backyard which he returfed, and another area of the backyard which he left. And the part that he returfed actually died, and the part that he left lived. So I don't think he was the best landscaper. I think he was more of a handyman guy.
Yep. So what sort of, did you have any, was it just because you saw him doing that, you thought, I'll give that a try, or did you have an idea that you wanted to do landscaping while you're at school?
No, I always loved it. I used to play around in the garden with plants and so forth, and my 2 older brothers used to tease me for gardening. So I used to garden when they were at home. When they were out, I used to hide behind their back and garden when they weren't home, so they wouldn't tease me.
So then that neighbour, what sort of work? So you worked for him, did you say?
Oh, it was a very short while. Very short while. I left him after maybe about 3 months, and I worked for a company called Marnie Landscapes, and I was their first employee. And that was great because Ben Marnie, he was a family friend, so we went to primary school and high school together. And being his first employee, it meant that I got a good hand on like everything across the business. And he was just starting out as well, so there was a lot of excitement for his own business, and it was great, and it was a good leadway into the industry.
And how long were you with him for?
I think I was with him for maybe like 2 years, and as his team grew a little bit more and it became more of a construction side, I realized that I didn't really fit in a construction side. And I guess I saw lots of opportunities where the design could have bettered, and I was keen to more be in that planning side of things. So I left Ben after a little while, and I transitioned
Yep.
from my landscape construction trade to my landscape design diploma. And as soon as I got in that classroom, I connected with the teachers more, I connected with the students more. It felt like everyone wanted to be in the classroom there, and everyone wanted to learn the plants, where in the construction class, all the builders just used to copy my plant exams, and no one really wanted to be there.
Yeah, I struggled with that as well in the early days. So before I started landscaping, I studied horticulture, and that
Yes.
was awesome because everyone, was actively wanting to study it, so they enjoyed being there and they were learning everything. But then when I started my apprenticeship and I was doing the schooling side of the apprenticeship, everyone was just there because they had to be, so they just couldn't care less. So yeah.
Totally. People like sleeping, people are late. The energy in the room just isn't there. Yeah,
So that was a diploma in landscape design, was it?
it was what it was.
Whereabouts was that you studied it?
That was at Rad TAFE.
And how many years does that go for?
That was 2 years full time. So I did the landscape trade course, which was 3 years, and then the last 6 months I kind of did the construction course and the design course, and that was 2 years full time. And it was great doing it full time because I was living with mum and dad at the time, so there was no pressure to have a full time job, and I could really put a lot of time and energy into the course.
Did you start doing any sort of designs for family and friends during your study?
No, I didn't actually. I mean, I worked on mum and dad's house, of course, which they still haven't built. But while I was at TAFE, I was working at Eden Gardens in North Ryde, and it was a great garden centre because it had just opened. It had just opened 6 months ago. So the energy behind this garden centre was amazing. There was all those display gardens. And it was a great opportunity because I would be selling plants, I'd be working with plants. Eden had their own education side of things. So I was teaching design courses on Saturdays. So it was pretty cool to like learn something at TAFE and then reinforce what I was learning by teaching it to other people. It was just like a 2-hour workshop. It wasn't too involved.
Yep.
But it's a great opportunity to kind of really ground everything in.
And then, so did you have you always had plans to have your own business, like when you were younger?
No, not at all. I completely fell into it. I was working for a couple of design companies, and the last one I worked with, they kind of let me go because they didn't think that landscape is where I wanted to be. I was studying interior design at the same time that I was working with them, but I was really interested in the design side of it, obviously. But I really wanted to choose all the furniture and repaint the house and kind of take a holistic approach to landscape design. And they just didn't see the worth in that. So then they let me go. And then that was when I started to do, a couple of jobs for family and friends. And then it just rolled on from there.
Yeah, it's weird that they would have that mindset because there's a lot more companies now doing that that whole design process of the inside and outside all working together.
100%. I always say that the best jobs are when you have the architect, when you have the interior designer, and the landscape designer. You get that trio, and you get, it's all about the portfolio, right? It's to show what jobs you can do and to lure the clients in. So that the idea of taking that holistic approach is incredible, because I remember working for that company and we'd have to take all the clients' furniture out, borrow furniture from a furniture store just to make the photos look good.
Yeah. Yeah, I've spoken to a builder, and when he gets his projects done, the photographer, they Photoshop nice looking furniture in there because
Really?
it looks rubbish, or the clients haven't got any.
Well, 100%. I always kind of say that the styling is just as important as the design. You need strong styling and you need strong design. Both go hand in hand to get an excellent end project.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that a lot of people wouldn't realize the value of it until you see it. If you put a collection of all the best of all your favorite photos of landscape designs, you'd find a lot of them have been styled, and it's done so well that you don't realize it.
For sure.
It's not like it's just been sat there, like, put a pot on a table, for example. It just looks like it's been lived in, but it's actually, been styled.
Yes, and it's finding that balance where it's not over styled, where it looks like it's been styled, but as you say, it just feels like it's been lived in. Someone's been sitting here and they've just left the room.
Yeah. So how did you go about starting the business up then once you left that crew?
So I worked 3 days a week at a furniture store called Tate, and it was just when they opened up in Sydney. And that was a great opportunity because I had the stability of some income coming in for 3 days a week, and then I could do my own thing on the side. And working at Tate was great because it allowed me to network in the industry. You always got stylists in, you got editors of magazines. They used to hold events at their showroom. And I remember I met the stylist, Sarah Ellison, and at the time, she was head stylist of Real Living magazine. And I just got chatting with her, and I think I showed her some of my work, and she said, "Well, you should come and be a stylist." So I showed her one of my projects, and she sent it to the editor, Deb Bibby, and they agreed to feature it in their magazine. So I went and styled that for the shoot, and it was published. And then I just kind of rolled on from there, and I started doing freelance styling for Home Beautiful, Inside Out, Real Living, all of those magazines. So it was a good little way of bringing some income into the business, profile building, and also building up a collection of images.
And what sort of jobs were the first sort of landscape designs that were coming across your desk? Did you get some horrible ones to start with?
Of course, some of them were pretty terrible. But I also feel like I had a lucky break by a couple of clients as well. Like there were a couple of nice, juicy ones that I could photograph straight away.
Mm.
But a lot of them, because I was concentrating on this styling element of landscape, I was getting lots of balconies and small courtyards. So I kind of niched myself a little bit for being known for those spaces, and it's taken a bit of time to kind of grow the portfolio out a little bit. So I wasn't known for doing balcony gardens.
Yeah, I did. Looking through your Instagram, there does seem to be a lot of tight spaces that you're working in.
Correct.
But they also looks like it'd be a good place to work because you can put so much stuff in there and make it look amazing. But yeah, so has that been something you still work on a lot on now?
For sure, for sure. So it takes a while, I guess, to attract the clients, the good high-end clients. And then once those projects are installed, as you know, it takes a couple of years or longer till you can photograph them. So we do get a lot of inner city work. We do a lot of terraces, and we do love that work because, as you say, every square inch needs to be designed and used. But we're doing a lot of larger projects now. We've shot a couple of them this year, and hopefully next year we'll shoot more of them and add them to the portfolio.
Yeah, I did like some of the walkthroughs that you do of the projects. And there's one that was just on the shores of Sydney Harbour, which seemed like a decent sized one. So, are you continuing to do those walkthroughs?
Correct. Yeah. We think it's a good way of allowing people to connect to the garden, and we kind of talk about the client's brief and what went into the project. So it's just a nice way of doing a bit of light marketing, I guess.
Yeah, and I always reckon it's good for the face of the business to get on camera as well on your page, so because that makes you more accessible for people who want to use your work.
Yeah, I do think that's important actually, because the last company that I worked for, people would always ring up, and it's like they didn't care who came out. They would ask about price straight away.
Mm.
But you kind of want your clients to connect with you, connect to your portfolio, and say, "Yep, come out," and not to chat about price in that first meeting.
Yeah, that's a good thing about Instagram and the marketing is the client has already sort of chosen you before they've even contacted you, because they've sort of been following along and they've seen your story and how you work and the designs you do. So then once you go out there, you've already won the project before you've even started.
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe it's like less and less where people would get a few designers out, like pay for a few consultations. I think, as you say, you just want them to connect to your work and be like, yeah, come out. We want to work with you.
Yeah. So with those smaller projects that you have worked on in the past, is there any tips you've got for people who do designs in small spaces? Is it like using small pavers or big pavers that make a difference?
Yes, I always kind of chat to the client about the usability, like how do you want to use the space? If often with those spaces, having dining and lounging can be a little bit too small. So whether you go for comfortable dining, see if you find a dining chair that you're happy to sit in for 4 hours instead of like a 15-minute chair. And then if you can't fit lounging in, then maybe it's just a day bed or a built-in seat that you can relax in a little bit. But definitely continuity of materials. And one thing that I'm always banging on about to clients and staff is forming some continuity between the architecture and the interiors and the landscape. And obviously just making it blend and feel seamless, because every renovation, especially these small spaces, it's opening at the back of the house. So you just want to create that kind of flow and for it to feel like one room essentially.
Yep. You'd be doing that well with how, because I saw that you're an ambassador for Caesarstone. It's like they're doing outdoor stuff now as well. So is that one of the ways you're doing that, like bringing that outside?
It is. Yeah. They've got they've just launched into porcelain. So they've got 17 colors. So there's so much opportunity to find a color that's working inside and be able to flow that outside. So 100%, it's a great way of forming that connection.
And when did you put your first staff member on? Was it in the early days?
Yeah, it was in the early days. So Josh was my first staff member, and he was with me 7 years. And I think that was maybe after about 2 years of business, he came on part-time.
And was that intimidating, or you'd had heaps of work, so I was able just to get in and start flying straight away?
No, there was so much anxiety of bringing that staff member on, thinking that work's going to dry up and that he's not going to enjoy the work and your caliber of work isn't impressive enough for that staff member to come on. All of those little niggling doubts that I think all of us have. But yes, it was a very intimidating time.
And how many staff are you at the moment?
There's 9 of us now.
Yep. And what sort of design process, like the designers breakdown, is it? Do you have like designers and architects, or how does it?
We've got 1 landscape architect, and then we've got 4 landscape designers, and then some office staff as well, and a drafter.
Yep. And what's the plant knowledge like compared, like, because that's something I'm always fascinated about, is people who've studied landscape architecture compared to landscape design.
Yeah.
Do they all have good plant knowledge, or is that something they're sort of learning as you go?
Everyone does have pretty good plant knowledge. I mean, I kind of feel like if you didn't, you would pick a lot up in the office, because we're always brainstorming different, plant solutions, whether it's shady or sunny or, frontline sold. But I think a lot of us, a lot of designers seem to have done a bit of time in landscape maintenance, whether it was working for another company or just earning some money on the side. So generally, everyone's plant knowledge is pretty good in the office.
I reckon it helps with people who are passionate about what they're doing as well, because they're going to be whether they've learned it at school or not, they're going to be, it'll be like a hobby to them almost. So they're going to learn that outside of work.
Yeah, everyone's a bit of a plant nerd, really. Like, we all love walking around the streets and being able to identify things, and I think everyone loves that you are a horticulturist, because whether it's a neighbor, a friend of a friend, or a auntie, everyone likes to get a bit of advice from you, and I think we all like to give the advice as well.
Yeah, I was blowing my parents' mind when I first started landscaping, because I was just sort of saying, "Oh, that's this plant, that's that plant," and they had no idea I could learn that kind of stuff. They didn't have very high expectations.
I'm like, wow, our son's a lot smarter than what we thought he is.
The only way was up. But
yeah.
So I saw that you've got something to do with the Landscape Design Institute now as well. You're a brand ambassador for them. Is that right?
Yes,
So how long
absolutely.
have you been a member for?
I've been a member for a very long time, maybe about like 14 years or something like that. I became a member when I was a student,
Yeah.
um, and still a member now. So it's been cool actually to kind of enjoy the Landscape Design Institute from all different angles. You know, being a TAFE student, and I really like. I went and chatted to Ride TAFE about a month ago, and it was their first or second day, so it was orientation. And I was trying to sell it to them to join the LDI because I know when you are a student and you kind of feel so unattached to the landscape design industry and it feels really intimidating because you're just a TAFE student. Well, the LDI is such a good opportunity to connect with all different likes, different companies. And it just makes sense because eventually every TAFE student, almost TAFE students are going to be looking for a job. So it's a great idea to kind of build your own personal profile within the LDI.
I reckon that's a great idea to even to get them to come along to like. Do you have meetings like events and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
really
even
fun events as well.
yeah, so getting like students to come along and they don't have to come along by themselves because that could be a bit intimidating. But if they come along as a group, then they're going to meet
Yes.
designers there, and they could be the future employer. So that
Yeah,
work both ways.
totally. Because when you do eventually become a landscape designer, like you don't think you top shit, you know, and you don't look down on TAFE students either because we've all been there.
Yeah, we got to start
And
somewhere.
yeah, and it's a very friendly industry, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, there's some I think they're TAFEs yeah in Victoria that when they sign all their students up to be Landscape and Victoria members, like as part of the course.
Yeah,
So then, at the very least, you're getting the emails and all the communications is going out, and then if you want to get involved, you can.
totally. And I think the cost is, I think it's like $100 or $125. So it's not a huge outlay for all of them.
Yeah. And do you know what the reason behind the name change was from Aildam to Landscape Design Institute?
Well, one, I think because it was a bit of a mouthful, you know, the Australian Institute of Landscape Design and Managers.
Yeah.
And also, I think they were just desperate for a rebrand. You know, it was feeling a little bit lackluster. You know, there were some new board members that came on board with some great motivation. And I remember when they presented the rebrand to us at the balcony garden, it was almost emotional. Like you could see how much effort went into it, and it really is all about community. So I think it's really stepped up a huge notch, and the events and the awards that they're all holding now, like it's really impressive.
Yep. I'll speak about one of the awards that the Landscape Association do later. But does the Landscape Design Institute, they're like a nationwide thing, aren't they? It's not just New South Wales. So how does that work with, do they have meetings in each state?
So they have events in I don't know if they're in all states, but there's a few states, but they do a lot of online things as well and webinars. So it's very easy for like rural people and interstate people to come on board and be
Yeah,
involved.
perfect. Yeah, that's what I'd like. Yeah, keen to do. So,
Mm,
but yeah, speaking of the other, like the Landscape Association, you're the current landscaper of the year.
yes.
That would have been pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very unexpected actually, Joel. So it was incredible to receive that.
So were you just sitting there thinking, like getting a couple of awards, and then all of a sudden they've called you up for that one?
Yeah, well, I was sick that night, so
Oh.
you know, and with COVID and everything, I didn't go. So Stacey was always going, but Caitlin went for me. She took my spot, but I was getting all these text messages, and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and and it was funny because Stace had to keep going up and giving speeches as well, and she was completely unplanned for it all. Um, but they really loved it, and it was nice it was nice because as the director, you do kind of get, all the praise. So it was nice for the staff members to get up there and get applauded by everyone on the night.
So when did you let them know that you weren't able to go because you were sick, and then they said, "Oh, you sure you can't come?"
No, no, I just kind of went quietly, just didn't show, and Caitlin turned up for me.
They would have been freaking out when they saw that.
I
No.
know, absolutely.
So do you do any sort of outside work for your staff in terms of building morale and that sort of thing? Anything outside of business hours?
Yeah, yeah. So we quite often do dinners together where we'll all catch up and have a meal and a bit of a hurrah. And then we do like little industry things together as well. So like a couple of weeks ago, a few of us went to a event put on by Lightco, who do all beautiful lighting. And then we also go to like showrooms will invite our team in, and we'll have a little breakfast or a lunch and get together.
Yeah, nice.
Mhm.
And I saw that you've got a Garden Angels as well. That's part of the business still going?
We
All right.
used to. So we've just let that go actually.
All right. So
Yeah.
that was a maintenance and installation side of it, was it?
Yeah, so we started that up in COVID, and it was a great opportunity then because I thought, shit, I've got such a good like team at the moment that I'd love to keep everyone on. So we quickly bought a van and bought some tools and got some uniforms made, pivoted work as we were all using that term. And then we did it for about 3 years, I think it was, but we were just finding, well, I was finding it hard to be kind of across the design and across the maintenance. And and because a lot of our jobs were a little bit smaller in size, you need to get to quite a few jobs to make it profitable. So there were a few reasons, and all signs were pointing to no design's going really strong. So we just we're just focusing on that side of the business.
Yep. Yeah, there's no point trying to be everything to everyone because then you end up
Totally,
suffering.
totally. Yeah, and when you close it down and everyone's shoulders drop and there's this sigh of relief, and that's when you know that you've done the right thing.
Yep. Yep. So have you got a list of landscapers and maintenance crew who you recommend work to when you do a design for the clients?
Yes, 100%. So we've got our preferred contractors that we use, and we have a separate contract with all those contractors to talk about signage, to talk about timing, to get back to us with quotes, smoking on site, values, and all those kind of things. And then we have that now. We've just built that with our landscape maintenance guys as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to go about it because yeah, especially if you're recommending them, it's a massive recommendation for you to want someone to build your gardens to the client. So you want them to be with the same values as what you've got.
100% Joel, because it doesn't matter. Like we source the contractor's quote for the client. The client signs off on the contractor's quote, but it doesn't matter, how involved or not involved we are. If anything goes wrong on site, it always comes back to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've got a very short temper with people who I recommend. Like if I recommend someone and they mess up one time, that's enough. Like
Yeah,
I don't need to recommend people. So if you're going to do it, you've got to carry on the same way I would.
for sure. So,
Because yeah, like you
so
say,
there's
it
no
comes back from you.
yes. There's no three strikes for you. It's just one.
Yeah. Because there's plenty of people out there. So if people don't see it as a good opportunity to work on a project, then it's not the type of person I want.
For sure. I agree.
But unfortunately, that means I have to do a lot of the stuff ourselves because I can't get other people, reliable people, because I just flick them too quick.
Are you a people pleaser as well? Where
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good trait to have, is it?
I don't know. It does. It can cost you money, but it also builds your brand and your reputation. So, yeah. I'm pretty happy doing it that way. There's times I've heard someone say you can either be rich or you can be right. So
yeah, right.
There's times where I could have argued with the client about something but it's a lot easier just to pay a few dollars and do what they want.
So true. So true. Because you need to think about the brand, right? And how you're representing the brand.
And even just your mental health as well, like stressing about things and having arguments, and then an email comes from them, and you think, oh, what does it say now? Whereas you could just pay a few $100s and then the problem's solved.
Yeah, so true. Agree there.
So have you got any plans on growing the business from what it is now?
Look, I kind of like the size that it is now. I find it very manageable. During COVID, just like a lot of other companies, there was, so many inquiries and so much opportunity to grow the business. And having grown, having had the maintenance side of the business and realizing, that it's can be quite tricky to have all those different sides. I kind of like the idea of keeping it the size it is now and being across all of the projects as well. Quality control is so important, and I think we all cringe when we kind of see something where the quality isn't up to our standard, and it's those things that kind of keep you up at night. So no, I don't have any plans to grow the business. Maybe like we do a lot of collaborations with companies where we design pots and design furniture and things like that for the outdoors and little PR things. So I like that side of the business. I could grow that side.
Are you doing much internal design?
No, no, no. So I did, as I said, I did study interior design. And when I first started the business, I did promote myself as interior and landscape. But then every kind of interiors lead, the client would sell the house, or they would then there'd be someone not well in the family, and they'd have to move or sell. But there was always a reason why the interior leads would fall between the gaps. And it's just like the universe was just saying, just concentrate on one thing, concentrate on the landscape.
Yeah.
But it was good to kind of and like from a styling point of view and from a color point of view, and to be able to relate our designs to interiors.
So whereabouts do you get your inspiration from when you're designing? Do you like go for a walk around the streets or anything like that of the near the project, or?
I mean, I always draw inspiration from the architecture and the interiors. I think it's so important that there's a cohesive feeling. But I guess it's just a little bit of magazines, a little bit of Instagram, looking at what international people are doing. Yeah, just little things like that.
And do you ever have to knock back any clients because they're not sort of the design they're wanting is not really what you're wanting to design?
Yeah, so we're pretty upfront about that, and it doesn't come from an egotistic point of view, but sometimes the client's values aren't aligned with ours, or sometimes the client doesn't quite have the budget that they would like to have, with the brief that they have provided. And I guess I've learned to really look out for those red flags as well, because you have a client for roughly about a year, or sometimes longer if you're going through a council, and you have a relationship with them and their garden after. So as tempting as it is to kind of people please everyone, you need to look out for those red flags, and I think it's better for the client and the company in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things you get better with as your experience goes. Like, you just know, you just got to have, whenever you've got a bad feeling, it's the right feeling.
Yes. And it takes a few projects going pear-shaped to build up that confidence and
Right.
that filter.
Yeah. So do you go out to every design consultation?
Yes, I do.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, Nate is in a design role as well. So he goes and sees all the clients where because we do still offer styling. So we go out to people's projects where they might have moved and the garden's done, but they need to choose like furniture, pots and soft furnishings, or it just needs a rejuvenation. Nate kind of looks after all of those projects at the moment, but he's been trained up as well to also be in that kind of sales customer service role. So it's either myself or Nate.
Yeah. And what sort of time process does it take from when you're going out on site to presenting the design, the first draft of the design?
Well, I go out to do the consultation, and then I invite the client back into the office for another meeting. Once the client signs up on that, then we say about 4 to 6 weeks to come back with the concept stage.
Yeah. And do you do 3Ds with your designs?
Yes. So we do offer it as an optional, but we seem to do about 85% of the 3D work as well.
Yep. And is that in-house or you subcontracting?
It is. It's in-house. I do. So we have an offshore staff member. I looked into doing it more of a consulting thing, but it's pretty amazing. So it's a full-time staff member for us, and they do some of our drafting as well. But just having that access to go back and make amendments to really get that look that you're after is kind of super helpful.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your favorite plant to put into your designs?
Favorite plants? I really like the Japanese windflower, the anemone.
Yep.
The classic white and yellow one. I think it's such a nice one because it just pops its head up in autumn and flowers, and then it has the seed head, and it kind of creates a bit of movement in the garden. It's nice behind hedges, or it just has that cool flowing feel to it.
Yeah, nice. And last question for you is, who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
Who do I think would be a good guest? I think Jane Stark. Jane Stark does interiors and she does landscape at the same time. She's been in the industry for a long time. She was my mentor when I was starting out, and we still catch up for coffees and have a yarn. She's a character. She's a wealth of knowledge, nice. And I think she'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. All right. All right, Adam, thanks so much for coming on today. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. Good to connect.